everybody, my name is Tom Zobel and I am an RMM admin here at ProVal Tech. And today, instead of a step-by-step how-to, we are going to look at a theoretical question. When should I send an email from my RMM? If you are working in ConnectWise Automate, you have the ability to send an email from an alert template when a monitor triggers. You can send an email as a script step, and there's a couple of other things inside the tool that can trigger an email from Automate's integrated mailbox. And most other RMM tools can also do this. So when should you utilize this feature? And I'm going to answer the question now and then provide some examples. For internal communication to your MSP team, or if you are an internal IT department, for internal communication within your IT department, you should use the RMM's email function if you want to send something that's only informational, that doesn't need a ticket, also known as doesn't need to be actioned, or if you want to send something in addition to a ticket to help get more visibility on something urgent. For anything customer facing, if you're an MSP, or if you're an internal IT department, anything outside of your IT department, you should send as much communication as possible from your ticketing tool or your PSA as you can, and avoid using your RMM. And there's three primary reasons I recommend not using your RMM tool for end user communication. The first one is that the email is going to come from the mailbox integrated with your RMM tool, which is often different than the one that you're using as part of your ticketing tool. And the first reason is basically, even if you tell a user not to reply to this email address, or tell them where they should reply instead, someone will eventually reply to your RMM's mailbox. And if you're not monitoring this mailbox, something can get missed, and it can lead to a frustrated end user wondering why nobody ever followed up with them. Reason number two is that if an email needs to be sent, it's much easier to set this up in a very specific and granular way in your PSA or ticketing tool. And then number three, if an email needs to be sent, it's much easier to audit for it to see if it was successful in your PSA or ticketing tool. And I am mostly using ConnectWise's companion tool, ConnectWise PSA, formerly known as Manage, as a reference here. The example that I'll use to kind of illustrate this is the offline server monitor. In a typical MSP setup, all managed customers are using the same offline server monitoring setup. When the monitor triggers, it creates a ticket with high priority and syncs it over to your PSA tool. Now let's say that one of your customers is co-managed. They have their own internal IT team and they want to get emails when a server goes down in addition to your team reaching out for the ticket it creates for you guys. So if you wanted to set this up in Automate, this means that this customer would need a different alert template than every other customer. And that means creating a new group and a new alert template just for their machines, or creating a specific copy of the monitor just for them and then excluding all other machines. Now in Automate, you end up with either two groups or two monitors that need to be managed. And this can get complex very quickly. If their IT team replies to a server offline alert from Automate that was sent via email and your team misses it for the same reasons described earlier, that's another potential point of frustration for them. If their team claims that their server went down and they didn't get an email from your system, it's very difficult to audit for that and prove that from within Automate. So instead, what you should do, if you're working in ConnectWise Manage, is set up a workflow rule for that customer. And so when a ticket is created for that customer, it can check to see if the ticket title matches the server offline subject, and then it can trigger sending an email to their team with the ticket information. When you set this up, you don't need to make any changes at all to Automate. You can keep this configured and trimmed down to just that specific customer who wants this extra email on top of the communication from your team. If they reply to this email from your PSA and your email connector is configured properly, it'll add a comment to the existing ticket so you won't miss any communication from their team. And if their team claims that they never received an email, you can use the audit trail to easily see whether the workflow triggered and help figure out what went wrong. So the key here is consistency for your end users that you are supporting. All email communication should flow from one address if possible to create a consistent and familiar end user experience and to prevent anything from falling through the cracks. For internal communication to your department or to your MSP team, just keep in mind the saying that everything should be a ticket if it needs to be addressed. An email should be used in addition to a ticket if something needs to be done. This can be good for increasing the visibility of a high priority alert to your team, But just remember, this should be supplementary and not the primary way that your team gets notified of something urgent. So I hope this helps. Thanks very much for watching. We post new videos weekly to share our knowledge about Automate. To learn more, please visit provaltech.com. There is a link in the video description below.